This is Dust War Journals, episode 30. Hey! I am Johannes, with me today, as usual, and as per tradition here on the show.
Magnus!
And...
Oh, yes, bada bing, bada bong, it's Lada. Hey, hi, everyone. How are you doing?
Blowing out the mic. All right. Yeah, this is, of course, Dust War Journals, your number one stop for all news and discussion related to Dust 1947. So, how have you been doing, guys, lately? I can start by admitting I haven't really had any personal hobby time at all, like the last few weeks, because I've had just, there's been stuff, basically.
Stuff going on. Well, personally, I didn't have too much time, but I did manage to get some more work on my terrain piece that I'm working on. That I'm hoping it will be ready for Dust Nordic. The reactor house, I call it. It's a kind of a mix of an MDF kit that I bought a while ago and some scratch building stuff. And just today, actually, I primed it, so it's coming together.
Yeah, it seems really nice. You showed some pictures there on the Dust forum, the Dust War Journals forum, that is.
Yeah.
And it looks inspiring and very promising, I must say.
Hopefully it will look cool when it's done. And I did also buy some new stuff that I have planned for quite some time now. I don't remember if I told you. Yeah, I think I told you about the table that I'm planning. I had originally an idea that I wanted to finish that as well before Nordic, but like the few months in the autumn kind of just disappeared for me. So, but now I think I have all the stuff I need for the table. So I don't know. When I've finished the reactor house building, I will start tinkering with that table.
All I can say about that is just don't go overboard.
Yeah.
For everyone who knows what he's doing, and for you who doesn't, that didn't give you anything. But do I care? No. There's just some extra bonus in that one. Well, should I jump in?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay.
Go for it.
Well, I've been actually quite busy, and it's not true, actually, Johannes, that you haven't done anything, and I will be coming to that shortly. But we have actually... Well, what I've done is that I'm tinkering with a table as well. I'm doing a Desert Ruin. I had a good speed, 2 weeks, sort of, when I built quite a lot. But then it kind of grinded to a halt because of, well, many things. But I'm moving along still, and I'm hoping that I will get it done until Nordic. And perhaps if Nordic wants it, they can play with it. Otherwise, I'm just happy with it anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Otherwise, you just play with yourself. So.
Yeah, I play with myself every day. Oh, that's perhaps too much information. Let's move along.
So you did some snipers also?
Yeah, and so also because I've been watching a little bit too much on some tutorials, and I've been, I feel I can't do skin at all, and I would really like to improve my miniatures painting skills. So I've tried to... use some new techniques and try to be better. And I've done the snipers, and I'm now that I put it out, took it out of the shelf and looked at it again before this podcast. I'm actually quite pleased with one of the girls, and I'm ashamed to say that I put one of Paolo's girls on a corner in a shelf and didn't use her for weeks. But I will amend that next weekend when I will play a tournament with her. So she will be killing a lot of...
You just ask her for permission before you use her.
Well, I'll try. Okay, I'm getting there.
That's
okay.
good.
But,
But seriously, usually that's a pretty good idea when you're painting. If
ask
you
permission?
no, just to leave stuff for a while.
Oh, yeah.
Paint it to a certain point and then just leave it and come back like a day or two later, because then you have some distance to it, and you usually feel better about the paint job than when you just up and at it. So that's a general tip.
Definitely, it's so true. And sometimes you need to let it dry, and really in your mind as well, just to see what you should do next. So just not rush things. And I was actually watching this guy paint pro on a web channel on YouTube yesterday, and he was like, okay, but That's good. I usually tell people to do it at least 3 times. So apply the same color 3 times and it has to be so thin because you have to layer it and build it up. And I was like, but as perhaps everyone is. But I've been trying now to thinnen the paints more and try to scale. And he had I think he had 6 different flesh tones on his. So it's like, I usually do 1.
Yeah, but I mean, you have to choose. For me, at least, I have to choose. Is this going to be like a hero that I want to be the focus point of the army, or some kind of cool walker or whatever it is? Then I put some extra time in it and maybe do a few more layers and stuff and weathering or whatever it is. But if it's like rank and file troopers, I don't really bother to do that much with them. It's more to get it coherent, to actually get them done. They don't have to be perfect. So
no, that's a good thought there. Definitely,
it's better to have an okay painted army than an army that isn't painted at all. So.
I agree with you so much. It's actually another guy I'm watching on YouTube. I see if I don't have him on almost speed dial on my YouTube, so to speak, because I think he's so cool. But who was doing something along those lines actually. He has 2 letters in his I should have prepared this beforehand. I'm sorry. Okay, well, the first off, he has such a nice voice, so I'm actually almost afraid to say this. I can almost just listen to him just because that guy should do audiobooks or something. It's soothing voice to listen to.
That's actually quite important for certain YouTube channels. I find myself listening to YouTube a lot more these days because I have my hands and eyes busy doing something else, like working on a model or stuff like that. So that is actually something that people don't always think about. It's as an important part of being a YouTuber.
Yeah, definitely. It's so important to get your interest, and I actually found him now at least. So tabletop miniatures. Is the one and I really
enjoy
yes
him. Tabletop min of course, the Uncle Adam.
Okay, Uncle Adam. Okay, so
I know him. I'm a subscriber.
Oh, good. Yeah, well, and he actually had a video I was watching when he was working on how can I dumb down my paintings so I get a good looking army quicker. So I mean, and he had some tips on how to reduce the number of layers instead, just to get that, what Magnus says, the core troops, easy, quick. I do 50 figures and then I can play with them, but then I take the special hero and I can do some special things on him and he pops and you see he's the hero, and you can play them with a good result visually in almost at once. So please, you now have 2 Vikings here, 2 war journalists that tell you to go in and check out tabletop miniatures, but perhaps you already do it, every one of you. But please, let me just get back to also the thing that Magnus and Johannes have actually been hard at work than they perhaps want to admit. And I just like to say that I know I have talked a little bit about, I've tried to put out some new rules for kill team action in Dust Universe. And I know a few people has been interested in that and asked me about it and wanted to get a sample. And I should have given those rules out by now, I know. But the fact is, since Magnus and Johannes has really jumped on board on this project and given me huge support, and we're actually having meetings every week now that we discuss these rules and try to evolve them. So we've decided not to say anything more about this until it's a finished product. So you have to excuse me for bringing you false hopes in the previous episodes. We're not talking about it right now, not because I'm lazy or we're not doing anything. I can assure you we're doing frigging lot with that, and it will be a great thing when it's done.
Yeah, so it's basically radio silence for a while, but that doesn't mean we're not working on it. We're actually working quite hard on it to make it as good as we can, basically.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So I just like to mention that so people don't think I'm just mouthing off here. And people can still think that because that's usually what I do. I mean, that's my specialty, just mouthing off. But I mean, in this incident, I'm actually not doing it. Sorry, guys. Okay, I think that's about it for my hobby time. Because we shouldn't talk about all the other games, which I'm trying to doodle with just to pass the time as well. But the claw guys are getting quite a lot of action right now.
We all have different games that we dabble in from time to time as well. So there's some claws and some scythes and some wheels and stuff going on at my hobby time as well. Not that's taken much time away because for those models, most of the time is just building them rather than doing the fun stuff, which I feel is the painting, which I don't really have time for at the moment, unfortunately.
Yeah, so for me, it's mostly 6 shooters.
Yes. That's really, really nice. All right, so let's jump right into the news for this episode. There's been some new releases, or rather some old reboxing releases, quite a bit there. We have the Jagged Luther, Jagged Loki, and Jagged Wotan box in Primed, so 1 chassis and 3 different loadouts for weapons. Really, really nice combination here.
Yeah.
I specifically, I knew when the Jagged Wotan especially was released that I was incredibly hyped about it, and then I never really played with it. And I still got to.
Oh, yeah.
So, but it's a weird one because it has a very powerful laser, but it has a shorter range than the regular, so to speak, Wotan. But it's a sturdy and heavy-hitting mech.
Yeah, I have to say I like the Jagged Wotan. It's a bit different, and sometimes you need that longer range, but in a lot of times this one will do very well. Personally, I think it's probably my favorite chassis of the Axis Walkers. I think they look super cool. I think I'm not sure about. I haven't really played the Jagged Loki, but I think both the Jagged Luther and the Jagged Loki are just maybe slightly overcosted for my personal taste. I have difficulty finding the points, but the Jagged Wotan I have played at least a few times with it, and it usually performs okay, at least.
I agree totally with you. I also love the chassis, and I've tried to field the Jagged Luther and Jagged Loki a few times, but I've always got that feeling that I'm a little bit wanting. So, I mean, I feel like I can get even more with the same amount of points with different units. The Ludwig, not only by the name, of course, but also by the cost and the efficiency of the Ludwig, makes it too good to be... I mean, it's better to have a Ludwig and something else than have the Jagged Luther, in my mind. And probably just because it doesn't have that tower-mounted machine gun. So I would love to see the Jagged Luther and Jagged Loki. Also because the Jagged Loki, has good anti-aircraft guns, but it's just not enough to bring down or seriously threaten the choppers when you're a German player. But with an extra machine gun, you can perhaps shoot at different targets. You can perhaps help with just the last little wound and bring it down. That would be something, I think.
So maybe like they did with the original Wotan, make an upgraded Jagged Loki 2 chassis, basically. I really like the Jagged Loki, personally. And I agree with you that it's okay for anti-air. It's not amazing in any way. The thing that it does really well, though, is anti-infantry. Because it has that range 10, and it shoots 9 almost across the board, and it's still 8 dice for Soldier 4 infantry. That's really good, actually, for something that's shooting at infantry, just to get those amounts of dice and that range.
I'd like to flip something out there for you as well, to shoot me down and say I'm wrong or if I'm right. But correct me now if you need to. The Jagged Luther, I know you can have in the fire and move platoon. The Loki and the Wotan you can't. Okay, the Jagged Wotan would be, and that platoon would be. But at least the Jagged Loki, if that were able to get fire and move in that platoon.
That could be amazingly good.
Yeah, and since they're all the same chassis, I think all three should go into the platoon. It's strange having one but not the others. It just felt before we got the Jag vote and almost that it was a typo that the Loki wasn't, considered. I
think I agree with you there. They might fit. At least the Jag Loki I think would fit into that platoon very well.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like they are crazy overpriced. For me, I think it's just like it's maybe 1 point.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly the cost of the Jag Loki. Maybe you can help me out. It's 15.
15.
Yeah, so it's just that smidge, that tad too expensive, and I find that, like you said, usually a Ludwig or something else can do the job almost as well, and you also get some utility with the turret-mounted machine guns, and the Ludwig, they have smoke launchers as well. So.
Yeah. And you got that other, even though you lose the bonuses for the armor lists, but you have like the NDAC version when you have the level 3 open topped. Isn't that a Loki as well, or am I just?
Yeah,
it's tropical Loki.
Yeah, tropical Loki.
Yeah.
And even though you lose the bonuses for your army, I still feel I would rather, because it's like 11 points or something, and it has the top mounted machine gun and it has the same range, everything. I'll have 2 of those and skip something else instead of having one of these, and it almost feels like it's the same thing, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So but I'm guessing let it have the same points, make it part of the platoon, give it a top mounted machine gun. And I think you're going to see the Jag Loki moving about quite extensively on the battlefields. But that's just a guess from my part.
Yeah. Could be true. Next up is the Barking Dog and Mickey. These are the light variants for the USMC. Both very solid walkers, I feel. Especially the Barking Dog. We see this all the time with USMC players. Just an amazing walker. The Mickey, not as much. The big thing, I think we might get to see this more, actually, because it is quite cheap at 10 points. It's not that effective with its anti-tank, but we are starting to see a lot of smaller vehicles with the PLA and with the Desert Scorpions and stuff like that. And then the Mickey, I think, can do really well with its with all those allied walkers with their base 3 movement.
Yep.
So it's not something that's just you can afford to just overlook. I think if you use the Mickey correctly, you can do a lot with it.
Yeah. For me, as you know, I have always had some problem with it being open-topped. You can try to make it funny and say, I want to pop my top myself or something like that, or I want to blow my top when I play, or it's I don't know, but because I love the M3s when they have closed tops when they aren't open, but those 2 are crazy good, and Barking Dog, no matter what Barking Dog is a must for any player, actually. So if I were down with the USMC and I was playing them, I would probably have at least 2 Barking Dogs light, but I love also what you say about the Mickey Light, because it's versatile, it can do its shit, and it's point cheap.
Yeah, but both of them are versatile. They can do different things, and they can do them well. And they are, I mean, like all the M3s, they are pretty fast, and they have turrets and stuff. So you can use them for a lot of different things. Nice walkers.
Yeah, definitely. Next up, some real classics, in my opinion. The Carl and Lavrenti heavy tanks for the SSU. These, what can we say about these that we haven't said before? They, like I said, they're classics.
Sexy back. They're bringing sexy back. Or whatever the sound goes. I don't know. It's kids' music. I don't know it. But those 2, both towers are a compensation for anything. I mean, you can use them to so much damage. It's love that walker. Well, the tank. I mean, I love that tank. Sorry.
Yeah, those are two very nice tanks. It's only one thing that really, really annoys me with the Lavrenti.
Yeah, and I think I know what it is.
Yeah, it's not any longer on the list of captured vehicles. And
Yeah.
I
I
have
know.
one painted as my Axis army, so it used to be possible to play it captured, but not anymore, which is annoying to me.
Yeah, well, it made sense in some aspects that you could kidnap it because you did not have the tigers in the game, so to speak, and the Germans should have big tanks. But it would have been better, of course, that they shouldn't have brought in the captured on the Lavernity. They should have brought in a Tiger tank or a E-tank much sooner. But of course, I understand, studio. You couldn't do it then. Now you're doing it, so
Yeah, I think maybe the E-tanks that we know are coming. Maybe the plan was to get them out quicker than
Yeah.
they've had come out. So that was kind of the reason that it went when the rules were reframed there.
And in our community, of course, Magnus will play his Lavernity like an E-tank probably in the coming years.
And that could be a really cool thing also to see those big tank battles again. Just to see an SSU player roll in with 3 or 4 of these big monstrosities and then get the E-tanks from the Axis from the other side. And yeah, it could be really, really cool. So some real classics there. Next up, we got the Spetsnaz headquarters box. So this is also a really cool little box here with of course with all the HQ boxes you get the command squad, and you also get 3 different heroes. These are the same heroes that was released in the Kickstarter, basically. So you got the butcher, you got Ivan, yeah, that's the butcher. You got Vasily, the guy with the big red flag, and you of course got the General Iron Joe.
Yeah, and those are super nice, of course, and most people who were around on when the Kickstarter was going, we got all that. But for those who are new into the game, this is just a super headquarter box to get. I mean,
Yeah, it's a must-have for anyone playing the Spetsnaz, basically.
Yeah.
Because they are, you need the command squad, of course, and those heroes are really nice.
I'm a little bit suspicious, though, and I'm a little bit curious, or what else you should say, about the fact that they have no Rediana in this one. Is she going perhaps into something else, or is she moving? Because she has been moving around. I mean, she was blocked, then she was Spetsnaz. Is she going into a next level now that she's excluded from this headquarter box, or I don't know. It just makes me, because she's very good to have as a Spetsnaz player. She could actually be much better than any of the other 3. So Iron Joe is the best one, of course, but then the second choice for me mostly is Rediana, actually. But well.
We'll have to wait and see what happens.
Absolutely. Then we also have the Laser Grenadiers for the Axis released as a model kit.
Yeah.
So another way to get these classic units that were very, very hard to find for a long time.
Yeah.
So I just, when they re-released them in Primed a while ago, that's when I first got mine.
Yeah.
So completing my Blutkreuz collection there.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Right, and finally we also had another model kit release, the Joyful Mechanic Crew. This is a special collector's edition model kit, which don't be fooled by the box art. There is no tank in this box.
What is there a box? Is there a tank in that box? I haven't seen it.
No, what you get in this box are, I think, 6 different mercenary mechanics. So some different girls in different poses, some sitting on boxes, some getting dressed, another one laying down to check like the oil or something on a tank. I mean, you can do a lot with these. These are not really meant for gameplay. These are meant to do dioramas or stuff like that, like they show on the images. So it's a more specific niche product than the other units, more or less. But still very cool.
Oh yeah, It's better I don't say anything. I just say I like this one. That's all I'm going to say today. I like it.
And then, of course, you got the thing that it's hard to paint skin.
Oh yeah, but I'm training.
Well, here you have some excellent material to work with. So
Here.
all right. And the final release that came about this month wasn't really a unit. It was a new, or rather an updated platoon that was released with the Paradise Lost newsletter. So if you're not subscribing to this, you should, because even if you don't play in the Paradise Lost campaign, you definitely should subscribe to the newsletter, because you get some updated units, you get updated platoons, and you also get a little bit of story. And I think the storyline that they have at the moment is just amazing.
Yeah, I also like that a lot. I don't know who wrote it so far, if it's just one person or several. I don't know if it's Olivier writing everything like in the last book, or if this is written by someone else. But either way, it's a very cool story and very well written.
Very evocative, very Lovecraft inspired, and just both in the setting and the mood, but also in the type of storytelling. And I'm blown away. I really like it. But this, like we said, we got an updated platoon for the Blue Coast. This is the Sigrid platoon. And it's basically, the platoon rule is still the same as it was before. The big change is which units can be included in that platoon.
And which units get the benefit of the advantage as well.
Yes, of course.
So you have a lot of more choices when putting together the platoon, and you also have a lot more units that will benefit from the platoon advantage.
Yeah, so how the platoon looks at the moment, let's see, so I get the right pages up. Before you had Sigrid as the command unit, you get 3 required units. One was the Laser Grenadier Squad, one was, and the other 2, let's see, one was Laser Grenadiers or Heavy Laser Grenadiers or a Zombie Grenadier Squad. And the third was Laser Grenadiers, Heavy Laser Grenadiers, the Laser Tank Hunter Squad, or the Zombie Grenadier Squad. Now, the change is that the command unit can be the Laser Grenadier Command Squad if you don't want to use Sigrid or you don't have access to her. And you also get the Zombie Suicide Squad in Combat Unit 2 and 3. So a bit more kind of work to, well, get your support in another way, so you don't have to use those specific units.
Yeah, but just jumping in there, because I think Magnus is already on his way as well. But of course, Sigrid has to be on the board.
Yes, that is true, because you have that in the platoon advantage rule. That's true.
Yeah, if you read it, I mean, carefully, it looks like Sigrid doesn't have to be in the platoon, but she has to be on the table.
Yeah. But that also gives there some special. She could actually had another platoon because she's on the board, and they are still fearful of her because she's over there, and we know if she comes over here.
Yeah, I haven't really thought about what possibilities there are, if there's any other particular platoon that she might fit in. But anyway, it's a possibility anyway. So, but the big thing, at least for me, is that you have more choices. I mean, you can have, what's it called, the second zombie?
Yeah, the Suicide
Squad. Yeah, exactly.
That's the intelligent zombies with the bazookas and the
yeah, and that is kind of a sort of a close combat-ish unit. It needs to be very close to whatever it's gonna fight. So having that unit be immune to suppression is very good. You don't want it to like, you know, stop in its tracks when moving forward. You want it to just keep going. So at least in my view, that's the biggest change. And of course, in general, having more units is always good. So you can kind of personalize, you can choose exactly what you want depending on what you have in your collection. So you're not forced to use that exact unit, except for you still need one of the regular laser grenadiers, because that's kind of her personal elite
Guard,
unit, personal
yeah.
guard unit. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's fine because fluff reasons.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and they're
definitely.
cheap.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yes, there's no reason why you shouldn't have 3 of those and do this platoon. It works wonderful as well. And also I hope they will do a revamp on this platoon again in a year or so time, because I got the impression, at least from both Paolo and Olivier in Poland last and something like that they were coming with more Bleutkreuz units. We know that the special... what's a special
Experiment,
X9 or something like that, but I just get the feeling that there will be more Bleutkreuz coming also, and if they do get more infantry units, I hope they will be able to use this platoon as well. The experiment perhaps won't react that much to Sigrid, but probably Sigrid have monitored the experiments making, so to speak, and I guess they have imprinted her vision into the monster in itself, so I think it will probably shit its pants when they see Sigrid. At least that's my suspicion.
Yeah, and I really like that the studio is willing to go back and mess around a bit with the old platoons and just give them some new possibilities, really. So
Yeah, because either the platoon wasn't as good as they wanted, or it didn't work quite as they wanted, or there are like new units can be released, or different combinations that wasn't available before. So it's really good that they are willing and able to go back and revamp stuff.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
awesome.
there was also a new Errata and FAQ document released during February. And there's quite a lot of stuff happening in this document. Unfortunately, there was no... Sometimes they mark which passages are changed or new. This one didn't, so you had to kind of dig through it. So I might have missed something, perhaps. But I think we have the big stuff, at least.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It wasn't too much, and I think at least a few of these were more like clarifications, and I felt that we have kind of played those things as they are written now in the FAQ for quite some time. So I just didn't realize that they
Didn't exist.
Yeah, exactly. I was a bit surprised. Oh, okay, this.
There's one specific change, though, that we're going to get to. That is quite a big one.
Yeah, there are a couple of big ones.
Yes.
Sure. So let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's go from the start. Aircraft. So aircraft are now clarified to not be able to interact at all with objectives.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, definitely good. So you can't contest with just hovering a helicopter over an objective.
No.
So yeah, definitely an improvement. That's
Yeah, I mean
clarified.
they are so fast, so you shouldn't be able to just like on the last turn make a march move right up to the objective and claim it with them. It's just
No.
it seems weird.
Definitely.
And we have played for I don't know how long that aircraft cannot interact with objectives. So this was one of them that I was a bit surprised and realized that okay, this wasn't in the in the FAQ before.
Another clarification is that a non-airborne pilot can pilot an airborne vehicle. So this was a bit of contention before that just made stuff weird. Like if you used the Smersh platoon and you made the vehicles in that platoon airborne, so you can drop the KV-47s, but Koshka, if you put her in Grandma, then she's not airborne and therefore she can't pilot it because it has airborne.
Yeah,
and
this kind of stems from an earlier discussion about what happens if a hero joins a unit,
Yes.
like some people joined. I think it was
Rommel.
Rommel. Yeah, exactly.
The Fallschirmjäger, yes.
What happened? Do they airborne drop in, or do they enter
Walk
from
in.
the side of the table, or what happens? And in the last, I think it was FAQ, it was clarified that you can't even do that. You can't join a unit. And then this discussion came up. Okay, so what if you have a pilot that is piloting an airborne vehicle? Is that possible or is it impossible? So there was some discussion and confusion about that. But now it's clear that Koshka can pilot Grandma, and you can put some other pilot in a vehicle, even if it drops in. So
Yeah, and it was probably good, the thing with Rommel and the Fallschirmjägers there, but because I had a few games where our good friend
Good friend Roger.
Yes, please. Oh shit! Cut that one out. Oh, Roger, I visualized you in front of me all the time. That's why I didn't need the name at the moment. No, but he served up some humble pie for me a couple of times there when he walked in with his Rommel and kicked my ass just with that unit. So I guess perhaps it was, but I also felt that was kind of fun. So I mean, well. Now it is as it is, so it doesn't.
Yeah. Next one is the one that I think is the big one in this version of the Errata. Cheat death is now changed so it only works once per game, per unit. So if you have multiple units with cheat death, they can, of course, each cheat death one time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, since it become such an inflation almost of cheat death characters, you almost felt it's good because some were doing armies with only cheat death characters, and it was just silly. I never had that big problem with it like some other people have with like certain victory and stuff. But I feel it's on the whole this is a very good dumbed down of a rule.
The thing that was problematic, I feel, with cheat death is that you can have those streaks where you have that one hero that's just impossible to get rid of no matter what you do. And that doesn't feel good. That doesn't feel right for the player facing that.
No, it happened perhaps a little bit too often. I feel it's kind of fun, even when I was on the receiving end, that okay, it doesn't matter this fucking time what I do. I can't kill this guy. It's like it gets epic and it gets kind of filmatic because you can still have that. I know we had a wonderful game gazillion years ago on GothCon when we had, I think it was Essas Sturmgrenadier, heavy Sturmgrenadier. He had one up in the forest. It was like a war fair we were playing, and we were like bombarding that fucking guy with bullets, and I think he died like 2,000 times and still had like damage resilience, and that just saved him once more, and it was just like, okay, just don't give a shit about that guy. Let him be. Let him stand there, claim that fucking tree, and we can't kill him. And those are kind of fun things as well. But of course, if it's a hero, he's more powerful or she is more powerful, and that could be, yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the issues, maybe the biggest culprit would be Sergeant Victory, but then again, he's very unique, and I think maybe more of the problem is there's a bunch of fairly cheap heroes and even mercenary heroes.
Yeah, we saw that Nurse Emma has got really, really popular here in Sweden. And a lot of people use her as a cheap objective grabber because she just doesn't go down.
Yeah, and maybe it's not even an objective. You can just place such a hero in a space to keep the opponent from passing through that space.
Yeah.
That could be just super annoying, just one little model just refusing to die. So, I mean, it can be fun, it can be some epic moments, but in the long run, I think this is a very good change. And my personal feeling is that quite a few of these heroes with cheat death are, or at least have been, slightly undercosted. They feel a bit too cheap because they can do this, and I don't know, it's just too luck based. I've had a bunch of these times, both when I was using cheat death character or facing cheat death character. It kind of felt that okay, this game, nothing
you do doesn't matter.
Exactly, it's just that dice roll. So this game, the outcome of this. Yeah, the outcome of that game.
Journal sing along. Sorry, I just had to
it's
do it.
I don't know. It's
that's your one per episode, folks.
Right.
Oh, sorry, Magnus. But I feel you, and I totally agree with you. But I also agree a little bit with the ones that were crying out on the internet that they thought that the allies were now totally fucked because they don't even have Sergeant Victory. At least when you play a Rangers army, that he was like the special thing you could. So perhaps you actually have to tweak Sergeant Victory again, or perhaps give Sergeant Victory and the Rangers a bonus. Would it be nice to have a Sergeant Victory jumping in, helping the Rangers platoon or something, so he could perhaps, I don't know if there's a way to do that.
I don't think the difference is that big with Sergeant Victory, actually, because for the most part, when he is down and cheats death, he will be stunned, and usually he dies fairly soon after, for the most part. I mean, it can happen those times where you just keep rolling cheat death and he just refuses to die, of course, but it's not that big of a deal. For me, at least, I think it's more with these super cheap heroes that cost only like 4, 5, 6 points when they refuse to die.
But also, now I'm only speculating, but you know, there are reasons why one could suspect that Mr. Brown is taking a step back. So perhaps Sergeant Victory is going into the forefront a little bit more. So I could see perhaps a new platoon for him, at least. Or he could be okay, is Ranger number 1, perhaps it's too much Captain America, but people have done that parallel anyway. So, because you feel, I know people thought he was underpriced for 13 points, but now I feel he's actually a little bit overpriced. Perhaps not, but just the take out of it, and if he were supporting just Rangers to be a boost for Ranger 2s and 3s, I don't know. I would like to see something there, but
yeah, a nice platoon could be very interesting.
Yeah. Right. Next up, Scout has been changed. Well, it's the wording of the rule that's been changed. It still works the same. The real difference is that in the rule book it says that you use Scout and you use one action for a scout move. That is a march move, basically, and then leaves you with one extra. And that has been misinterpreted by people to mean that then you can do your scout move, you can do one action, and you can do a third action after that. And that's not allowed, because it's
4.
Yeah, because that completes it to 4
Yeah, so
in
now,
the end.
exactly. So now it's super clear that you make your march move, and then you get to do one more thing, one extra action, and that's it. So this is good.
Next up, Rex has been changed a little bit clarified. The change to Rex is that walkers now can move through Rex, but not end their movement on them.
Yeah, and it was so good there because for some reason I thought you lost the W. So I think, who's Rex now again? What is he doing? No, just
Rex Colt.
Yes,
Private Eye.
Yeah, and why can everyone move through him? What is this? Sorry, I'm in a mood right now. I'm saying in this episode, I'm just fucking with you all the time.
But this is a fairly big change, but it's a very good change in my opinion.
It does help that kind of stuff that have happened to us in games. I remember that game where I played the Smersh platoon against Uloda, and basically just dropped all my KVs down in one corner of the map, and they died, and then the other KVs behind them got stuck and couldn't get out. So no problem there anymore.
No, but it's good, and it's also the rec markers I love. Also, just a side note on that you can remove your walker, so it doesn't. It was nice to have that tactical almost thing that you removed your rec walker if it was if you could bring it back, but then it got a little weird that you could remove terrain from the board. I mean,
but now there are rec markers. They came with the Operation Hellgate.
Yeah, so that I really like those, and I really like it makes it simple that a wreck is always a wreck. It doesn't magically dissolves into the thin air and floats away somewhere. It's
and another part containing just regarding wrecks, if a vehicle that was burning is destroyed, the wreck is still burning after that and can still cause damage to units that moves through it. So that's also a good clarification.
Yeah.
And finally, the first strike skill has also been clarified a bit, but it's the same thing as with the scout rule. It still works the same way it has always done, but it's just been clarified in the wording.
Yeah.
So that's basically it, I think. And before we go over to our mail call, I think we should talk a little bit regarding the FAQ about something we talked about last episode. Because we had a question there about the zombies.
Yeah, well, exactly. We got one question from Wong Koi Hin. Is it correct that a zombie hero that joins a mindless zombie unit, will the unit still be mindless and thus cannot take objectives? And I said, if you ask me, they should be able to take objectives. But it's been quite a while since I played the zombie army, and I actually missed this. This is written very clearly in the FAQ and was in the earlier FAQ as well. And the unit still counts as mindless, so they cannot take objectives.
Yeah. Well, it is as it is.
Exactly.
Yes.
So there's that.
That's basically it. We are definitely no perfect beings. We can definitely forget stuff and make mistakes. So that happens, and I hope you all feel a little bit better for making your own, because we all do.
Yeah. Well, who needs the rules anyway? Just play it like you want it.
Yeah, of course. Whatever. All right, let's go into our mailbag section. So, mail call from Michael Allen Harden. Michael asks, do you play more to win or more to have fun? I started out only caring about winning, but over the past 6 or so months, I care now more about having fun. P.S. London number 1.
Yeah, well, that's nice.
So you got a fan there, I think.
Well, Michael, I'm sorry for you, but it's always nice to hear if it's what you intended. But let's get to the more interesting thing about the fun or winning. I can actually feel him very much, because I've been playing a lot of games when I really wanted to win. But more and more during the years, I've gone over to play more for the fun of it. I can get into a situation now and again, unfortunately, on tournaments, when I feel like, okay, this tournament is really mine for the taking, and I can really come way up in the standings here. And then my combativeness and my wanting to win kicks in, and I just go for it, and I can get really frustrated when I don't. But hopefully, at least I'm more of a seasoned, more of a fun player nowadays. That's at least my hope.
Yeah, I think that's basically my attitude as well. I've been there and just had that kind of winning mentality that I want to win every game. I want to make the optimal army list. But now I definitely feel like I've shifted more over to just playing more for fun, even if it is in a competitive setting. In tournaments, if you don't always bring the optimal army, you bring the army that you feel is the most fun, because if you have that as a goal, then it's much less likely to get disappointed, basically. That said, I can still get into that mindset depending on the situation. Like, for instance, if I was going to the European Championship, then I would probably go into that mode at least a bit more and try to match it a bit, but probably more towards the winning side than the having fun side, but not letting go of that side completely.
Yeah, definitely. The Warsaw tournament is hard not to go into competitiveness with the mindset of that, because it's just so. I mean, it would be not so nice to have that trophy, like. Like someone has, but not naming any names here. And I mean, being in a quarterfinal once and in a semifinal once, you feel like it's or even in a final actually once. So it would of course have been nice to have that number one plaque, And then of course, listeners, there's also of course when you have the tournament organizers sometimes can be like real proper fucking fucking a-holes, you know. And for some reason, I'm thinking about Dust Nordic that's coming up. Because, you know, there's a certain person who's shown me the prizes that will be there for the tournament, of the Nordic tournament. And let me tell you, I could probably... No, I can't cut someone for it, but I mean, I could do strange, shitty things, and I could really get competitive because some of those things that will be on that prize table.
So you're saying that during Nordic you are in it to win it.
No, unfortunately, I am not. That's what kills me because, you know, I'm going to play with my daughter in that tournament. And I know, Mats, I haven't registered yet, but I have one window open now in my computer. So during this program, I'm actually registering for the Nordic, if not 3 others have done it before me and I'm out. But so I will play, but I will play with my daughter. So it will be strictly just for fun. But knowing the prize table... Well, perhaps I could sacrifice my daughter because no one would suspect her poisoning someone or something. I don't know. And she would not know what she was doing. I mean, it just happened to... And let's not make any more strange outings on this, but just this.
Yeah, perhaps.
For me personally, if you're done.
No, I'm not. If you're starting, then I'm not done. Right. Then I'm going to continue.
Okay.
What's it called in America? Filibustering? Yeah, this is going to be a fucking 48 hours filibustering right now.
Right.
Just to keep my
remember that I'm the one who cuts the episode. I do the editing.
You already cut me when you showed me the prices. What is this? Is this like a bloodbath or what? No, you know I love you.
My pound of flesh.
Oh yeah, you can have 2 pounds if I get what I want. Okay, Magnus, please let's bring some order.
Yeah,
in
I just wanted to go back to the actual question for a little bit. I want to say that for me personally, it's very possible to combine the two. You don't have to choose to play for win or play to have fun. So I'm kind of thinking that you should always be a gracious loser and a gracious winner. Winning isn't the most important part, but I still prefer to... I mean, I don't want to play against somebody who doesn't care about the game at all. It doesn't really make it interesting. I think both players should try to win and play as good as they can, but, you know, I try to avoid starting big rules arguments or nitpicking about everything, which is one of the reasons I really prefer playing on the grid, because you avoid so many of those discussions. So that makes it a lot more fun to me.
Very true. And you don't have to win to have fun. I think that's also something that's very important to remember. I mean, for me personally, some of the best, most interesting and most entertaining matches that I can recall have been matches that I've lost.
Yeah, I think me as well. I personally would rather lose a very tight, intense and fun game, interesting game, than to win something just, rolling over the opponent. That isn't really interesting and fun to me. So.
Oh, no, definitely. One had, since we have played a few games, when you met a newbie who has perhaps done some mix-up and didn't understand how to make his army, and it's like it's over before you start. Those games aren't fun, not at all. You want to have it on the line.
It's not going to be those games that you remember afterwards. No. So
well, I do sometimes, because also they can leave we were talking before the broadcast actually here about one particular game in a particular tournament, and we shouldn't name anything so nobody feels their oystered, but it was and that guy had seriously not understood the competition we were playing or the scenarios. So when I looked at his army, it was like, okay, guy, how in the hell do you think you're going to do anything with that composition? And you were...
Yeah, and I know what you're saying. I've been in those situations, especially when you're in a tournament, when you maybe do go into that mode and you bring something that you think is going to do well, and then you go into a match and just absolutely crush the other player and they don't even get to... I hate that feeling. It feels so bad.
Yeah, because actually I tried to be... Because I felt like he was a quite newbie, not totally green, but... So you try to be nice, you try to make it... looked like a competition. It was over. I think it was over after turn 3, and but like you say, oh, how much should I say that this is an even game? Because he will see that this is not an evil game eventually, and he will think I'm a fucking a-hole, that he just goes at him like, oh, it's so super interesting and super exciting. And also, I don't want to patronize him and say, oh, those are very hard actually experiences and can place themselves in the back of the mind.
When it comes down to it, if you really have to choose about winning and having fun, I would say definitely having fun. That's why we're doing this. This is just a hobby. I mean, if we were some kind of professional players really depending on winning to earn our living, then fine.
Yeah, that's
but this is a
story.
hobby. We are all doing this for the fun of it. So, yeah.
Absolutely. So, next question also pertaining to tournaments comes from Mike Pierce. And Mike asks us, what are your thoughts on the differences between War Factory and the European scene and the USA? And, well, to be honest, we don't really have that much of insight into how things work in the US. But I think that one difference might be just that kind of mindset, because War Factory is Marek, which we all know personally, and he started out as just a fan of the game and grew his company from that. And I think for Dust USA, they went maybe the other direction. They got some people who are definitely not new to the hobby games in any way, but they started out as a company. So they started from the other direction. So I think that's a big difference in why things might be considered different, in how they approach things.
Yeah, I don't really know too much about the American scene there, but if I understand the question correctly, they aren't doing that much of tournaments. They are more into like, I don't know, maybe narrative events of some sort. And my answer is sort of similar to the former question, that one does not exclude the other. You can do both. And for a few years I ran a local game store, and in my opinion the best way is basically to do both, because there are a lot of different players, and some players prefer to play tournaments, while some players prefer to play more narrative, story-based campaign stuff, or just casual things. And that's fine. I mean, you don't have to choose between them. A lot of players prefer to play both. They like the mix, so that's fine.
Yeah, and here in Sweden, just a quick intersection here. We are actually more and more blessed that we have both. It's starting to pop up more and more story-driven tournaments as well. So we are moving to have both here in Sweden, actually.
And I think one of the reasons why we do that is because we have different play groups that are interested in different stuff, and it's just not one person who is arranging all the tournaments. It's quite a lot of different people, and I think that's a good thing to strive for, to find that mixed group where you can share your responsibilities and you can exchange ideas and just take turns being the organizer, basically. And don't be afraid to organize tournaments. It's not that much work if it's a reasonable sized tournament, and if you are 2 or 3 guys who are working together on arranging a tournament, that means that you can probably play in it as well if it's, like I said again, a reasonable size, about like 16 people or so.
Yeah, I mean, you can start small. That's what we did. I can't remember how many I think it was like 6 players in our first small tournaments we ran.
Yeah, that's about
just
it.
Start out, gather the people that you have, and do something. It's not that important the exact organization of it. Just do something together, and it will probably grow. As long as you have some kind of recurring events, just plan the year, plan to have 2, 3, 4 events, whatever you think you can pull off, and start growing it. And going back to the differences, it really depends on the organizers. Do the organizer want to play or prefer tournaments or narrative stuff? And also, it's very important that the organizers kind of know, or at least get to know, the player group. Like, what do the people prefer to play? So ask them questions. What would they like to see next? Or just try something different compared to last time and see how it goes. For me personally, it's much easier to organize a tournament. I'm that kind of guy who putting that together. I've organized tons of tournaments when I was doing the local game store. For me, it's much more difficult to run narrative stuff. But I understand that for a lot of people, it's the complete opposite. And that's fine. So just do whatever works for you and for your play group.
Yeah, I mean, it's just classic diversity is good. The more different ways you can play it, the more different ways you can enjoy your Dust, the more fun you will have.
Yeah,
I mean, and we talked a little bit about this before, and also for me the most important thing is also that the tournament organizer is very clear. So if I want to play in story-based tournaments or happy-go-lucky tournaments or happy-go-lucky in conventions, it should be clear that when I'm coming to a tournament, that's what I'm getting. So I'm not getting into a super competitive, 4 games where they kick my ass because I have a certain type of army, or vice versa. I mean, if I come with a super tactical and a tournament-winning army, and that could be just so boring if there's a special story. I mean, why should this composition of army be in this scenario and try to do this objective? That could just be like, ruin it actually for everyone. So, and even for myself. So, clarity from the tournament organizers, and definitely not. Don't subject yourself to exclude anything. I mean, try to be broad and embrace everyone. I mean, the more fun you can have, actually, the more enjoyment.
Yeah.
Right. Next question comes from Rob Lowry. Rob asks, "Hi guys, I'm really getting into this Japanese thing now, and I found a current 1/35th scale Japanese unit called the Ryu from Dust. They used to sell a 1/48 scale one with a second edition unit card. Looks like a slightly modified Wotan with 2 lasers. Do you think is there any chance that Dust is going to bring this unit back or revive it?" I think we can answer this one quite definitely.
Yeah, this is a question that we didn't manage to answer last time, I guess.
I think so.
Because now we know that there will be more than one Ryu as well.
Yes.
I can't remember which one is which, but we have seen
a lot of them. It's a standard Japanese walker, so it's you get it. You can play with it, and it's a wonderful walker.
And you get the double laser version,
Yeah.
and you also get the double railgun version for the Japanese.
Yeah.
So it's a really, really cool unit. Hopefully going to be available to all very, very soon. Next question comes from Frank Washburn. Frank asks, "Have you run any PLA lists yet? Do you have any wish list on how to expand the PLA faction?" And I actually don't think that any of us 3 have played any PLA at the moment.
No, I just, since they aren't pure SSU, I haven't been able to embrace them, I know I think the Twins and the Poon guy is fun, and I would actually want to branch out someday, but at the moment, also perhaps because they're only, like the standard Chinese guys, it's the diversity that isn't interesting in that army yet. I mean, I know you can pack a lot of normal SSU with them, but for me, Well, I'm still searching for something that will make it tick. So therefore,
They don't really have that much choice when it comes to infantry yet.
No.
So that's an issue, maybe. They haven't really been that popular in our playgroups for some reason.
And I think that has to do with the choppers as well, because I feel like if you really want to do something interesting with the Chinese, you need a little bit of choppers. I mean, that reactivating chopper and a few transports and stuff like that, and the Tesla chopper and stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool.
You can make that into a nice, interesting army, but since the general idea has been quite negative about the choppers, so at least in my view, in our community in Sweden, if you run too many choppers, you hear the grunts. So therefore, I think people have not embraced the Chinese for that reason. I don't know.
I think, I think the issue is mainly that they don't have too much to choose from, so people are kind of holding off a little bit. For the same reason, I mean, we've seen Desert Scorpion. Very few people have been playing pure Desert Scorpion armies up until very recently. I mean, now there are stuff to choose from.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
I'm sure that we will see a lot more Desert Scorpions very soon. And I think if the PLA get a few more releases, a couple of infantry units and maybe a vehicle or two, then we will see a lot more PLA armies. So that kind of goes hand in hand. For his second part, do you have any wish list on how to expand the PLA faction? I have no idea.
Well,
I'm sure the Dust Studio will.
I would
release.
say walkers. Some type of unique walker.
Yeah. Well, we have that amphibious tank that's coming. And that is a very interesting one. And if that were to be just a PLA tank, I would get really annoyed. But I mean, I think it will be an SSU and PLA, so I think I'm good there. But
but I also think they need a couple of more infantry units to be able to branch out and get some, like let's maybe say one more generic kind of combat unit and one or two more specialized unit.
Yeah, and the generic one could also be SSU as well, because I feel like the SSU block, they have a few, but they could really do with something new. And not something big, something powerful, just something new in the infantry range would be very nice. So a new standard infantry unit for both PLA and SSU would be really, really lovely to look forward to.
Yeah. All right. Next question comes from Johnny Grogan, and Johnny asks, looking for terrain for Dust can be tough, as in no one makes MDF terrain for the game except Thor Miniatures. Do you guys know if they're done making that terrain? And unfortunately, it seems like they are. They had some problems with their laser cutting equipment, and they never really recovered from that. So I don't think we're going to be seeing any more MDF kits from those guys, unfortunately, because they were really, really cool.
Yeah.
So there's been some hope that they might be able to sell their designs to another company and they could make it, but since Dust is such a niche game in the market, it's difficult to see that happening. That said, there is a Kickstarter going on at the moment for some resin terrain that's very much in the same style as the Thor Miniatures kits, which is made by a German company. This is, of course, a lot more expensive than MDF, but it looks cool, it looks interesting, and if this succeeds, then maybe we can see, more range of stuff that is compatible with Dust from other players.
Yeah, I'm actually want to branch out here also towards them, and I think they should have a tip on the roof, because if I remember correctly now, they have flat roofs, or mostly, so when you're going to remove the roof to put your units inside, you have to remove all the building, I think. I might be wrong here, they might have done some changes, but the first pictures I looked at was like, okay, but guys, how will you easily remove the roof and put the miniatures in? Perhaps it's just me who hasn't researched it enough, but I think they need to have some chimneys or something that you could easily
like grab onto.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that
what's so
should
great.
be easy enough to fix for yourself.
Oh yeah. Well, you can always glue something on, of course. Yes,
Yeah.
but I think if you pay a lot of money for resin buildings, then that's what I thought was so great with the Dust Studio ones that you were showing us last time, Johannes. They had an easy solution to pick up the roof.
Yeah.
Okay, we talked about you might want some borders on the side there, so the miniatures, if they had someone standing on the lower part of one of the floors, then they shouldn't just jump away. I mean, but they were still so intelligently done that you easily picked up the roof and then you just,
Actually, personally, I think this is a very interesting question because I love terrain, as most of you know by now.
Oh, yeah.
And I have actually sent emails to a couple of different companies asking them, like, do you have perhaps any plans on doing dust scale, proper buildings and stuff to fit the grid? And unfortunately, they have answered me that no, not at the moment. But my kind of hope and wish and dream would be that Dust Studio made some kind of a deal to produce stuff like a license deal or something like that.
Yeah, because there are a ton of companies out there making great MDF
yes,
stuff
exactly.
now.
And I mean, I have found quite a few stuff that works. They are like okay with the measurements and everything, and very few are perfect. But yeah, there are some stuff that are okay. But those should be very, very easy to just change the scale a little bit.
Yeah, haven't we found that TT Combat is quite good with the...
That's one of the companies that I personally really like. I think they do a lot of cool stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
So that could actually be a tip if people are interested in that, then go out and mail these companies yourselves, because if they find that there is a demand for this stuff, then they might reconsider and just try making a small range at least to test the waters. We can only hope so. The only way is to get the word out there.
Yeah, because if they were thinking about doing it for certain types of tabletop games where they were basically non-gridded, they could still make it 10.3 centimeters wide, because then
9.3.
9.3, of course. Sorry. 9.3, of course, and fit into the square.
Yeah.
So then they can sell 2 times. I mean, because no one who puts it on a regular tabletop would give a shit if it's 10 or 9 or 9.3. I mean,
exactly. So yeah, that's my hope that someday that will happen.
Yeah. Next question comes from Oliver Galka. He asked, what are you hoping the E-tanks to be? Yeah, we talked about these a little bit earlier in the show. We know that they are coming, the whole E-series, all the way from the smaller to the really big ones, like Armor Class, Move, etc. Well, personally, I feel like these, since they are supposed to be like the pinnacle of tank technology,
I hope they will be awesome.
Yeah, of course. Well, if you just speculate a little bit, it feels like it should be at least Armor Class 6 for these things. I mean, that's the point of a tank, is to be able to withstand that firepower that other things bring. And if these are made in conjunction with walker technology, they have to stand up to the weapons that the walkers bring. So
yeah, I hope that they will be Armor 7 actually. Why? Because at least for me, the kind of image of German tanks, a lot of them were very big. We all know the Tiger tanks and stuff like that. They were big, they had a lot of armor and were difficult to get rid of for the Allies or the Russians. And in the game so far, how many tanks or walkers of class 7 do the Axis have?
Mm-hmm.
It's not that many.
No, it's not.
No.
I actually would like to see that they have spread them from 3s, 4s, 5s, 6, and 7s, because I haven't really wrapped my head around how many renders we've seen, so how many there will be. But I love to have when you played like Axis and Allies miniature games and stuff, when they came a wave and they were different, some were more rangy, some were more close up, someone had turrets that could move, someone were just front forward. I would love to have that spread. I mean, I would really love to see a 7 and a 6 or perhaps several of them, but I also would like to see small ones that could be interesting as well. But mostly, of course, if we really want to answer that question, what are you hoping the E-tanks will be? For personal reason, blown up a lot of times, easily. That's what I see. Just boom, smoldering wrecks over there and there and there. And that's another blown up E-tank.
Yes.
We'll just have to wait and see. And hopefully we don't have to wait that much longer. I'm hoping for at least one of these to get released this year. I'm really crossing my fingers for that. Right, next question comes from Brian Keith Younes, one of our contributors that's quite prolific with his questions. What are your favorite scenario from Dust Studios, and what is your favorite scenario that you or someone else came up with, be it for tournaments or just for fun? My all-time favorite from the studio is Recon from Operation Blue Thunder. This is the absolute first operation, or that was the scenario booklet that came with the original release of the game.
Yeah, the old coffin box scenario book. Yeah.
So that's a real classic. And as for the one that I came up with, is a toss-up between A Walk in the Park and Memorial Combat from my Operation Daedalus campaign. So what do you guys feel about this?
Wow. For Dust Studio scenarios, there's been a lot of cool stuff over the years. I have no really specific thing, but what I remember mostly, like intense battles, I think it was those underground battles. It was in the Operation Hades and Operation... something else, maybe Sverograd, I think.
Yeah.
It was one of them was like an underground metro station, and one of them was like a sewers something. Those were immensely fun, mostly because they were so different from the stuff we had played up until then.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed those.
Definitely. There are so many scenarios out there, and this is just another question. And once again, Brian here, he kind of shows us how we don't prepare enough for these podcasts. We should actually, I'm challenging you two guys that we need to have a Brian Keith Youth episode when we delve into all his questions and we do it seriously, because this guy, he's having so much good questions, and he seems to be sitting and pondering these questions a lot, and I never feel like we answer him the way he is. Well, we should, to put it simple. So I just like to take. Hopefully, I can next time go through all the scenarios and try to really, really answer this. Because seriously,
maybe try to play his own campaign.
Oh yeah,
I remember seeing it. I don't know. Did you guys show me, or maybe Mats showed me, or something? I can't remember now. But somebody showed this to me.
Yeah, well, Brian, send us it, please, once again in the mail system, please. We'll delve into it. I mean, because I've been reading about his endeavor to bring the old scenarios back to the new Dust rules.
Revamping everything for the new edition, for the latest.
A lot about that on the Facebook, and it's always interesting. But since time, for some reason, always eludes oneself, so I've never been able to get hold of anyone and just sit down and try to play it. But I mean, this is just a super interesting question, and I'm just rambling around trying to sound like I'm answering, but I'm not. I'm just
Well, actually, for non-studio scenarios, I have one that I really like that our good friend Ulf wrote we've been using for a couple of tournaments. He called the scenario Contagion.
Yeah, that's. I think it's Contagion is very contentious in our play groups.
Yeah, I know that some people don't like it, but
someone hates it.
But I really like it, and the reasons for that is, first of all, there is this unique special rule in it that I think works really well. And it's very different from a lot of other scenarios, and also it kind of sort of punishes spam armies. You know, these armies with tons and tons of Soldier 1 units that are fairly common, maybe not as common right now as they have been for quite some time. So I think this scenario is very good to kind of balance it out.
Definitely. I love this scenario.
If people want to try out this scenario, you can go to dustnordic.com and go to rules and scenarios, and it's the last scenario in that booklet.
Pamphlet.
It is slightly changed for Dust Nordic because some people were annoyed that we were going to use it. So it's been slightly.
That scenario could be very, very punishing to some degree.
Yeah. So if you want to play the original version, basically, then take that version that's on the Dust Nordic site, but with the changes that you can get multiple negative victory points from contagion markers, and you can go to negative victory points.
Yeah. It was so fun though. I win the game I have -8 victory points, but my opponent has -10, and you're like, yay, I'm the least bad in this scenario. It's just such a hilarious scenario.
It does create a very, very different play experience and a very different way to play the game, definitely.
I almost like to say it's like playing Ulf in real time. It's very different from playing everyone else, but that's actually a compliment if you're listening, Ulf. So it's and his armies are also very, very different because he likes to tweak them. He has done some immense remodeling on some of, especially SSU walkers. I mean, whoa, you really. You concentrate on his walker instead of what they do when you play him. So that's a nice one.
So finally, a little bonus question that we didn't really get to the pod, but that you, Luda, got in a private message.
Yeah,
again from Johnny Grogan, and this was: is it possible to use Commissar Poon with the Phoenix Twins?
Yeah, and I had quite a hectic week this week, so sorry, Johnny, not replying in person. But I mean, you two guys are so much better also on rules because you care about them. So just to give him a more serious answer, I thought let's leave it to you guys to answer that question. Yeah, and the question is...
The answer is, if you look in the FAQ, it's actually stated very clearly that you cannot do this. And that's because Commissar Poon cannot join another hero. Yeah. So it's as simple as that.
I'm not sure that we actually worded the question, because the question was, could you mix Poon and the twins together? So if we didn't state that, that was the question actually. Can you put Poon and...
If you put them in the blender and
you can always mix them. But
of course you can do that if you want to.
But so, rule-wise?
No, unfortunately not. So let's go over and do some tournament talk. So we have Dust Nordic, as we've already mentioned, coming up very, very soon now. It feels like it's going to be 13th and 14th of April. We just recently got confirmation that both Paolo Parente, the creator of the game, and Olivier Sanforescu, the rules author of the game, are going to be in attendance.
Way.
Yeah, so
that was actually what tipped it, because when Olivier comes as well, no disrespect to Paolo, no, of course I would love to meet Paolo again, but you get the double whammy, you know, it's like... it couldn't get better.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. And of course, Marek from War Factory is also going to be there. So you can shop from War Factory directly at the tournament if you want to. So if you feel like your first match is not going well, then you can just buy some extra reinforcements.
I'm guessing in a few years' time you will have that extra rule for something. If everything you buy from Marek during the tournament, you can also play with in the tournament extra forces.
But only if you play with Marek's own figures.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, but just because I mentioned it, it's actually a little local tournament in Sweden here, Tranås, this weekend that I'm going to just to...
Ooh, very cool.
Yeah, I just had to see the guys up there, and hopefully they will received me well. But so.
It's a really cool group that
Yeah.
group up there. So we also have a smallish tournament coming up, or a bit smaller than, of course, Nordic, because that's the biggest tournament that we've organized up here so far. But in May, the 31st of May in Linköping at the big games convention LinCon, there's going to be a Dust event. So that's also something that very much looking forward to.
Yeah.
Especially since I'm not going to be able to play at Nordic personally, since I'm arranging it.
And there might be, I know there's at least some activity on GothCon with Dust, and actually it might just be that there be something special, something extra dusty on GothCon.
Yeah.
But that,
And
if
that's
you live,
Easter
you will
weekend,
see. Yeah.
so...
Who knows?
And of course, the big European Championship in Warsaw, that's the 15th and 16th of June. So, as I said last episode, I've already booked my flight, so I'm definitely going. Have you guys had any kind of plans for it, or how is it just still developing?
Yeah, well, nothing more than I will go if not some serious stuff happens, like, well, it could be... It's actually a lot of fun at the workplace right now, so perhaps get new... Well, I'm off topic, so sorry. No, of course. I mean, I'm going.
For me, it's still a bit up in the air. I can't really say either or at the moment, so I will have to come back to that.
It's going to be a kind of intense weekend for me, because I'm on a work trip until like the day before the tournament. So I'm going to, I won't even be able to go home in between. I'm just going straight from a work trip and just going to Stockholm and take the plane from there and then go back home to Gothenburg afterwards.
Right.
So since I'm expecting to go myself, I just like to say, you will bring me the mic before you go away on your business trip, because the mic is representing in Warsaw, no matter how, what, why.
Of course, but you're a flying reporter, Lada. So
no, but if you're there, you're the head honcho. So I'm just Igor to you, Mr. Frankenstein, Mr. Frankie. I mean, at least, or if not, Magnus is going, then he's Igor, I am the monster, and you're Frankenstein. That's so easy to distribute the roles.
Good to have that sorted.
okay, yeah, good to know. I guess.
I'm going by looks, of course. Nothing else.
All right. So that is it for this episode. Yeah. So thanks everyone out there for keep listening and for keep supporting the show, because this show would not exist if we didn't have any listeners. That's why we're doing this. Yeah,
you're amazing, man. There are fans everywhere, or whatever you would like to call yourself, war journalists, reporters, crazy lunatics, asylum people, or whoever listen to this. Please keep on doing it.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
So that's it. Sign off. And as usual, we will see you on the battlefield. Thank you for listening to Dust War Journals. You can find us at dustwarjournals.com or on social media at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Dust War Journals. And you can find our Patreon page at patreon.com/dustwarjournals. All music used in this podcast is made by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com.